I didn't expect the night to turn into anything. That was probably the first mistake, walking in like things would stay in their usual lanes. Dinner was already half finished when I arrived. Plates out, voices overlapping, my sister mid-sentence about something that sounded urgent but wasn't. It never was. She had a way of making ordinary problems sound like emergencies. No one asked why I was late. My dad just glanced up, nodded once, and went back to listening to her. I sat down, filled my plate, and let the rhythm settle. This part I knew. Eat, listen, contribute when prompted. Don't interrupt. Don't correct. Don't make things heavier than they need to be. It worked, usually. Until it didn't. The conversation shifted, like it always did, toward responsibility. It started small: rent, expenses, how hard things are right now. My sister sighed in that practiced way, the one that meant she'd already decided she was overwhelmed before anything had actually happened. Dad leaned in, elbows on the table, fully engaged now. "She's trying," he said, not looking at me, but somehow still directing it at me. I kept eating. "She's doing her best. Not everyone has it as easy." That part hung there. I wasn't sure if he expected me to respond or just absorb it like usual. I chose silence. It had worked before. Silence made things pass faster. But he didn't move on. You could learn something from her, you know. That got my attention, not because it was new, but because of how casually he said it, like it had always been true, like it didn't need defending. I set my fork down slowly. Not to make a point, just because I knew if I kept eating, I'd miss something. "She takes responsibility," he continued. "She doesn't just think about herself." My sister didn't say anything. She never did in these moments. She just sat there, eyes down, letting it land where it needed to. I looked at him then. Really looked. There wasn't anger in his face. That would have been easier to deal with. It was certainty. The kind that doesn't leave room for correction. "You're selfish," he said finally. "She's better than you in that way." There it was, clean, direct, almost relieved, like he'd been meaning to say it for a while. Something in me shifted, but not in the way it used to. No tightening in my chest. No rush to defend myself. Just distance, like I'd stepped half a pace back from the table without moving. And then I laughed. It came out lighter than I expected. Not loud, not forced, just enough to interrupt the moment. Dad frowned slightly. My sister looked up for the first time. "What's funny?" he asked. I shook my head, still smiling a little. "Nothing." "It's just nice," he repeated. "Yeah," I said, "it's good to know." The room didn't know what to do with that. It wasn't the reaction they were used to. There was supposed to be tension, maybe an argument, something they could recognize. Instead, there was just that small gap. I reached for my glass, took a sip, and set it down carefully. "Then I won't pay for her rent anymore." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't look at anyone in particular. I just placed it there, the same way he had placed his words. For a second, nothing happened. Then my sister blinked. "What?" I shrugged, still calm. "If she's handling everything on her own, it doesn't really make sense for me to be involved." Dad straightened in his chair. "What are you talking about?" I met his eyes again. "The apartment. I've been covering half of it for the past year. That part I'd never announced. It wasn't a secret exactly, just not discussed. It had lived in the background, like a utility bill no one thought about as long as the lights stayed on." My sister turned fully toward me now. "You said that was temporary." "It was," I said. "It's just been a long temporary." Dad looked between us, trying to piece it together. You could see it happening, the recalculation. Not dramatic, just slow. "You never mentioned this," he said. "You never asked," I replied. That landed differently than anything else. He opened his mouth, then closed it again. The certainty from before didn't come back right away. It hovered somewhere out of reach. "You can't just stop," my sister said. There was something sharper in her voice now. Not panic exactly. More like disbelief that the ground could shift at all. "I can," I said. "I'm just choosing to now." Dad leaned back, crossing his arms. It looked like the beginning of something authority reassembling itself. That's not how family works. I nodded slightly. Maybe not. He waited for more. There wasn't any. The silence stretched, but it wasn't the same kind as before. It didn't feel like something I had to fill. "You're proving my point," he said eventually. "This is exactly what I mean, selfish." I considered that. Not defensively, just. "Honestly, maybe," I said. "Or maybe I'm just being clear." That seemed to frustrate him more than if I'd argued. "You think money gives you leverage?" he asked. I shook my head. "No. I think it already did. I just didn't use it." Another pause. This one held. My sister looked down again, but it wasn't the same posture as before. There was tension in it now, like she was trying to calculate something she hadn't expected to need. Dad exhaled slowly, like he was deciding which version of himself to use next. "You're overreacting," he said. But it lacked weight. "I don't think I am." No one raised their voice. No one stood up. It wasn't that kind of moment. It was quieter than that, which somehow made it harder to undo. I finished my meal after that. Not out of defiance, just because I was still hungry. The conversation didn't recover. It moved in fragments, then stopped altogether. When I left, no one tried to stop me. Later, my phone buzzed. A message from my sister. "Are you serious?" I stared at it for a while before replying. "Yeah." She didn't answer after that. Over the next few days, things adjusted. Not all at once. Slowly, in small ways. My dad texted once, asking if we could talk properly. I said we could. "We haven't yet." My sister started looking for cheaper places. I heard that through someone else. No apologies came. I didn't expect them to. What changed wasn't what they said, it was what they stopped assuming. No more casual requests. No more quiet expectations folded into normal conversation. Just space. I thought it would feel like a win. It didn't. It felt steady, and a little cold, but for the first time, it also felt like mine.